Welcome everyone to the December meeting of the Warren County Board of Supervisors. Please rise while Supervisor Bramer leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk will read the roll.
Mr. Leggett? Mr. Gerard? Here. Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer?
Here.
Mr. Brock?
Here.
Mr. McDonald?
Here.
Mrs. Frazier? Here. Mr. Simpson?
I'm here.
Mr. Vancelo? Mr. Dickinson?
Here.
Mr. Merlino?
Here.
Mr. Stroud?
Here.
Ms. Seaver?
Here.
Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Mr. Montesi?
Here.
Mr. Sokol?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Hyde? Here. Mr. Garrity?
Here.
Chairman Conover?
Here. You should all have received the minutes of our November 17 meeting. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Mr. Sokol, Mr. Gerard on the second. Thank you. Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the minutes of November 17 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I'll now declare a public hearing open on the proposed Warren County Local Law Number 4 and ask for reading.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Warren, New York is considering the adoption of a proposed Local Law Number 4 for the year 2017, entitled A Local Law Amending Local Law Number 7 of 2008, providing for an exemption to Cold War veterans from real property taxation and authorizing public hearing thereon. Notice is further given that pursuant to a resolution adopted by the Board of Supervisors on November 17, 2017, a public hearing will be held by the Board of Supervisors at the Supervisors' Rooms in the Warren County Municipal Center, 1340 State Route 9, Queensboro, New York, on December 17, 2017 at 10 a.m., at which time and place all persons interested in the matter of such proposed local law number 4 for the year 2017 will be heard concerning same. A copy of said local law is available for inspection during regular business hours by contacting the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors at the above stated address and may be viewed on the Warren County website.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the board regarding this local law? There being no one, I'll close the public hearing. I'll now declare public hearing open on proposed Warren County Local Law Number 1 of 2018, fixing the salaries of certain county officers and employees.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Warren, New York is considering the adoption of proposed local law number 1 for the year 2018, entitled A Local Law Fixing the Salaries of Certain County Officers and Employees of Warren County. Notice is further given that pursuant to a resolution adopted by the Board of Supervisors on November 17, 2017, a public hearing will be held by the Board of Supervisors on December 15, 2017 at 10 a.m. in the Supervisors' Rooms at the Warren County Municipal Center, 1340 Route 9 State Route 9, Queensboro, New York, at which time and place all persons interested in the matter of such proposed local law number 1 for year 2018 will be heard concerning same. A copy of said local law is available for inspection during regular business hours by contacting the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors at the above stated address and may be viewed on the Warren County website.
Is there anyone in here in the audience wishing to address the board regarding this local law? There being no one, I'll close the public hearing. Report of the Chairman of the Board. A very busy period. Committee meetings November 20, 21, 27th, 28th, November 30th, 12/5, 12/11, 12/12. Just a very, very busy time. Met with many department heads regarding numerous subjects. One item that I will mention is on November 29th, I, along with Mr. Garrity and a few other supervisors, had the opportunity to attend a ribbon cutting in Chestertown on their wood pellet heating system. It was really a wonderful community event. You could really feel the Chester community coming together to celebrate that ribbon cutting. It was a real privilege and a pleasure to be there. And Mr. Leggett, I hope, is in transit having some car issues this morning, but I thought it was a wonderful affair, and it took me back to the original idea that when this was originally discussed by Fred Monroe, who I sat next to for many years, and to having heard the idea of this project and then to sit there when they were bringing it online. It was really a tremendous accomplishment. And now it's my, I don't want to say pleasure, but it's my privilege really to, along with Supervisor Garrity, to really honor 4 supervisors that will be leaving us. We've gotten to know one another very well in your time here. And Devin, if you could come forward.
Already. Again, on behalf of the Board of Supervisors and really all of the residents of the county, I'd like to extend our appreciation for 12 years of dedicated public service. And the spot is open. Everybody in the place is on it. Again, I'd like to say thank you for your service. Thank you. Dan, the one thing I'd like to say about Dan is there's nobody who fought harder for Cornell Cooperative Extension, and I'd like to say, I believe this year, he finally got all the money back. I was honored to serve, and it was a pleasure. I learned a lot. I don't know if I'm taking more with me than I brought to the meeting, but it was gratifying to serve people that I live with, and I love working at home. Really honored to hear that Board of Supervisors to do that. Thank you. I look for support over the years. Good stuff. Everything that in the right direction. Thank you all. Ron Monterey. Ron, again, thank you for your service and your 9 years of dedicated service here on the board. One thing I'd say about Ron is I was going to get him instructions on how to shut his phone off. Ron, he took over the driving duties for me going to Intercounty, and I must say, I'm in trouble with what happened. Congratulations.
A little slow. Thank you. This is 9 years here on the board, but 26 years of service. It's just interesting. There is a planning board, your phone, Ron. Town board, etc. And I've enjoyed it. There's a couple of projects that I look at every day that remind me of some of the good things that we've done, like the bike trail and the bridge over Quaker Road. And I remember working with Lou Tessier on that bike trail, and Lou Tessier never understood the word transparent. He just said, get the job done. We did it. Mary Solomon helped put that bridge across Quaker Road. That was one of the projects. The sewer district at Exit 18, which the county helped on, that's a terrific project too. So thank you. I enjoyed my time, and I like it.
Rachel Steve. Rachel, thank you for your 4 years of dedicated service. Personally, I just have to thank you for taking over the responsibility of personnel. The difficult times you performed it beautifully. Coming through the evaluation. You will be. What do we say about Rachel? No, what I got to say about Rachel is she really, really embraced the personnel chairman and the role of personnel chairman. And it's tough to get a new program off the ground, and without Rachel's tenacity of keeping after all of us to get these performance evaluations up and running, we're going to miss that. We're going to miss that. There's some of the things we're not going to miss. I won't mention. We are going to miss it. We are going to miss her tenacity, and she brought the county up probably 10 notches to performance evaluations, and we certainly would carry that on. Good luck.
No, I really appreciate the opportunity. The last 4 years serving people since Barry's been an incredible honor and privilege. And I challenge, though, anyone to have more fun at Inner County, be a better NASCAR driver, and to bobsled faster or, drive the Moose River Road better. I really think that there have been some wonderful memories, and at the same point in time, I've had an opportunity to learn and represent our community. I'm very proud of our relationship with the Performance Work Plan and the opportunity to serve as personnel chair and the college chair. Those have been a great opportunity for not only me, but the residents in our community. So I'll look forward watching from afar, and again, only thank people sincerely for the opportunity, and always having to be a nice bird.
I'm not leaving.
Especially Mr. Spencer Email. I've already
What can I say about a man who's done it all?
Not all.
I had to laugh when Ron mentioned the Excel spreadsheet. There was the class on Excel, and I thought, the first person I thought about is Jim, when he sends out his 10, 12 pages of Excel spreadsheets. But Jim, we're going to miss you. We're going to miss your wisdom. And last week was Mark Twain in here. But all the best.
Thank you. All I want to say is that Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and keep these things lively with them. And miss sitting on the railroad and keep things in close.
How come you don't complain about the Kool-Aid or the Republicans?
I'm a polar bear.
I'm a polar bear. Reports of committee chairs. Claudia.
Thanks, Chairman. I will report on environmental, real property and environmental concerns for Supervisor Brock. We met on November 28th, and we had a very nice an educational presentation by a person from Mega, Luis Gava. Gave us information on the community choice aggregation, which is a way to consolidate our purchasing of electricity for residential customers. So I'm hopeful that some of the town supervisors will start considering that, as well as the city of Glens Falls. And you'll see there are numerous resolutions related to the tax levy. If you have any questions on those, you can ask Lexi. That's it.
All right, Mr. Brock.
I have none.
Mr. McDonald.
I have none.
Ms. Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Health, Human and Social Services met on November 20th. Much of what we had to do with housekeeping issues, and I'll do those resolutions afterward. I did want to point out, though, that Mr. Hunzinger presented a PowerPoint presentation. He's with Employment and Training. He indicated that there were like 45 youth in the work program. He provided an overview of the locations and credits the youth achieved during the summer and the year-round program. It's kind of nice when they give us an idea of what their program involves, and I do think that that summer youth program is a wonderful program. And with that, we have resolutions 504 through 508. 504 appoints members to the Warren County Community Services Board. 505 authorizes agreements with Community Services Board. 506 authorizes agreement with the Waite House to provide services. 507 authorizes agreement with Northeast Parent and Child Services to provide specialized mental health services. And 508 appoints William Borges, M.D. as Medical Director for the Division of Home Care. The one thing I did forget, we did also have a meeting, though, of the Social Services on December 12th, and that really dealt with, we were looking for an increase of salary for a vacant assistant social service attorney and an increase in someone who's presently doing the job, and we had to have a budget transfer for Countryside in order to cover the overtime. Then we'll go on to support services. First, I'd like to make a motion to withdraw resolution number 498.
I have a motion to withdraw Resolution 498. Do we have a second, Mr. McDonald? Thank you. Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor of the withdrawal motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay. Again, with support services, a lot of it was housekeeping, appointments, authorizing contracts, that type of thing. And we do have, the one thing I did want to point out, though, that Pam Vogel brought to our attention, that she was apprised of a recent recognition the Warren County Record Storage Center received from the New York State Archives and Archives Partnership Trust for Excellence in Archival Program Development on October 24th, 2017. So I think it's nice to just point out when something good like that takes place. And then you will find that we have, and I'm not going to read them all because there are numerous resolutions starting with 493 going all the way up through to 502, and a lot of them are just authorizing agreements, awarding proposals, authorizing extension of agreements. So I think if you've had time to read these over, I'm not going to read over all 10 of those. But before I finish, I would just like to say that during the time that I have filled in for Ron Vanslow, I have certainly appreciated all the cooperation that I have received from the department heads. It was truly a wonderful experience, and I would just like to say thank you to them for all the help that they gave me.
And thank you as well, Edna, for your service.
Well, you're welcome.
Supervisor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Works met on November 21st, and some of the highlights of that meeting, we started with a report from Saratoga North Creek Railway on the Train to Christmastown event that was in place and was going to in fact happen. So the next committee meeting, hopefully we'll have some numbers on attendance. We had Mr. Matteo from Adirondack Safari come in and talk to us about the glamping that we had on the Warren County Fairgrounds in Warrensburg this year. It went very well. I think he stated there wasn't a lot of revenue, but it was a very well-attended thing that he was doing there. And he also played back a video that he had produced with highlights of what had happened over the summer, which was pretty incredible, and it showed all the happy faces and the families. And so towards the end of his presentation, he had let us know that he would like for us to consider a 5-year agreement, a lease term or some kind of agreement, and rent that property continuously and have that event continue on. So we're in the process of working through that, and hopefully by the next committee meeting we'll have an RFP and details of where we can go with that. We also heard about a new event that's going to be part of the Lake George Winter Carnival. We heard from Lou Tokus. He was representing, works for the Winter Carnival, and he wants to hold the Snowcross event that traditionally had been held up the Festival Commons at the Warren County Fairgrounds. And that's going to happen. So we have a resolution in our packet reflecting that. And then we discussed solid waste and recyclables and electronics. Our contracts, which we've got resolutions representing those contracts also in your packets. Those were the highlights. So our resolutions, they start with, I won't read every one because there's quite a few this month. They start with 483 and go through 491. I would appreciate your support for that. Thank you. I want to add one more thing. With Supervisor Brock leaving, are we going to revoke his email privileges? I just wanted to clear that up. Thank you.
Supervisor Dickinson.
I had
No report. I'd like to make a couple quick comments. Jim, I'm going to miss our insightful conversations on any topic. Ron, I really enjoyed our car talk conversations over the years. Dan, I have to tell you, I was really impressed by and appreciated your leadership as chair of two of the most volatile committees at the county. You are always very professional and a lot more patient than I ever would have been, and we'll certainly miss you on the board. And finally, Rachel, with our love-hate relationship, our inter-county ventures will always be with me. We had some great times, and I really appreciate you serving on the board.
Thank you. Thank you. Supervisor Molina.
I have no resolutions, but just a couple of the travel guide for 2018 is at the printer, should be here early January for distribution. We've moved a little bit towards a magazine format, removing some of the page after page of listings, so it should be a real nice piece of work when it comes out. The department is also working with Gore Mountain on a co-op. This is an exclusive deal offer. It's going to have room stays and ski packages, and we will be able to track it on digital and social media. And the department is almost finished with our marketing plan, which will be at our first committee meeting in January. And the only thing on the Parks O&M, there was a resolution 341 of 2017, which authorized the agreement between the county and the Soil and Water to take care of the wetland part of the festival space at the Charliewood Park. And that's all. And I would like to make a comment also. It's nice working with all the people that are leaving. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but one thing, when we walk back outside, we'll all be able to talk to each other, and that's what I like. Wish them all well.
Thank you, Gene. Supervisor Strauss.
No committee report this month. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Sieber.
Yes, thank you. Personnel met on November 30th. We did a couple of things before we get to the resolutions, just to get you up to date. We had an extensive conversation about the resumes that had been submitted for county administrator and selected 7 candidates to start the first round of interviews on this Tuesday and Wednesday, I believe. And we will, as a committee, unless your committee next year decides differently, hold second interviews. That was the intent of our committee. We do have the questions for the first round and the second round, so thank you to HR and to Jackie and Trish. It's been a privilege to work with both of you, and certainly you represent the county in such a professional capacity and do a great job. So we have those questions. We will open it up to questions from other supervisors during the time of that interview, if in fact you haven't submitted your questions ahead of time, which would have been by today. So those are done, and then I suspect that final decision will move into January with those interviews. We also had a referral to the legislative committee talking about if in fact there was to be an opening for an at-large or city sitting supervisor, who would appoint that position. Our positions are created by the Board of Supervisors. They're paid by the Board of Supervisors. We did have an opinion this year by NISAC that we are Warren County employees. I know in the past it's been appointed different ways when there were 3 other vacancies, but I appreciate the fact that legislative will take a look at this next year. I think it's imperative that you all see a memo that was written by our county attorney's office by Brian Rickenbach that talks about, in his opinion, the unconstitutionality of the way we have it set up at the moment. So please take a look at that when you have time. And our resolutions are 309, 510, 511, and 542. I have first wanted to thank Edna for covering this past Tuesday. I appreciate it. So you did have resolution 511 come out of that meeting.
Right.
And then also, we had passed a resolution, and I guess I'm just looking for a point of clarification, Mary. When we create new positions, we don't have separate resolutions. They just go on one resolution. Yes. Yes. Okay. I just didn't see the resolution that came out, but I believe it's part of 509, creating 4 different positions. One of those positions we spent a significant amount of time talking about, and that is a special counsel to the board part-time, and at a position of not to exceed 16 hours for up to 3 months at $95 an hour for the help in the county attorney's office as well as the county board of supervisors. So that is before you as well. And then lastly, I want to point out, Dennis, I think you got a little teary-eyed. Your voice cracked a little bit in your farewell to me, so thank you.
His bow tie is too tight.
But on that note, I've learned a lot from you, Dennis, but I've learned a lot from each and every one of you, and certainly appreciate, again, that opportunity. And I could sit here and ask you to take a hard look at a dozen different issues going into next year, but I am sure that our new supervisors coming in, especially Brad McAllen, is going to hit the floor running and isn't going to miss a beat. So, again, thank you for the opportunity, and that concludes my final report.
Supervisor Beatty.
Thank you. Shared services did not meet, but Julie Butler is back from medical, and I did have an opportunity to sit down with her for a morning last week. And, I asked her to speak today, but she cannot, but she will speak in January for the combined savings for the year. But just to let you know, through the first 8 months of this year, $116,000 in savings by us using towns participating in the county contracts. The county of Warren alone saved $46,000. That's on, if we extrapolate the 116 out, you're just under $150,000 in savings. And that's just not 1 year, that'll be each year. That's significant. And I also identified, or she identified, along with myself, some areas of opportunity for next year. So in other words, the gift keeps on giving. So I want to thank the Glens Falls, the city of Glens Falls for, although I had to bring them in dragging, not because of these supervisors, because of the mayor, was rather against sharing services. But the good news is they saved $32,000 for the first 8 months of this year, which was a significant savings. And again, the areas of opportunity with the fire departments, with oil, with mechanical, and all this other things are yet to be tapped, and we will tap them next year. I noticed Bolton Landing saved $9,000 just on the water chemicals alone this year, which, $9,000 just on water chemicals in Bolton Landing. Now, every taxpayer in this county looks for us to do as good a job as we can saving them money. And so thanks for each of the towns. Thanks for the Warren Glens Falls supervisors for pressuring what you did to get Glens Falls on board. And I think we're going to see even bigger numbers next year. This is something that Julie Butler is doing a phenomenal job of training, going out to each town if they ask. She's done it, I think, 4 times in Glens Falls, 3 times in another town. I know Johnsburg will be having a new individual coming in, supervisor. She'll be up there training those people on how to participate. So again, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone, and Julie will give a short recap in January of the full year. And I also want to say goodbye to those 4 supervisors. We don't always agree, and I think that's good. I think that's healthy. I think that's democracy. In fact, it scares me when someone says, Doug, I agree with you 100%. I said, don't tell me that, because that scares me. But I know Dan Gerard.
Can I interrupt you? I'd
Yeah.
like to know who that was.
That was my mother, but she has since, unfortunately, passed. But Dan Gerard, you did a great job with facilities. I challenged you on a lot of different areas. You held your own, and I enjoyed the banter. More importantly, I think we still get some things accomplished, and that's the end result. Jim, I loved your emails. Very insightful. I hope you're a poet in your next life, because you've got the makings of a real poet. Ron, you learned how to turn out that phone. I'm telling you, Mr. Garrity mentioned that. And then the phone rang as soon as you said that. It wasn't his, though. But you do a great job. It's amazing. These people are leaving, and yet I see them at all the committee meetings up until last week. They're all putting in 120%. That's something I don't think the public always sees. There's very easily they could have said, I'm not coming back. I don't need to go to a meeting. I saw more effort probably in the last 2 or 3 months than I have seen. It's amazing to me. So, Rachel, you've done a phenomenal job. You really have. And the town of Queensbury has been darn lucky to have you in that position. The issues you've raised and the level of conversations that we've had because of your inquiries is phenomenal. So I'm definitely going to miss that. And again, thank you to you four. They're leaving, and I look forward to working with the new supervisors coming in. Fresh blood is always good, as long as it's not my blood. And that's all. Let's all have a nice Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Montesi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The resolutions number 470 to 475 specifically deal with criminal justice, traffic and safety board, criminal justice, public safety, and a few items just redoing contracts for the sheriff's department. The building, just a little bit of note, the building department, Charles Wallace, we broke $200,000 in revenue this year, which is quite an accomplishment. And Charles is looking for next year, Silver Bay and Word of Life have big projects on the board. So that's great. He's doing the training that's necessary. I'd also like to welcome back Brian LaFleur from surgery. He's back and healthy, and we got the fire station center with Washington County up and running. We got the water line in. We've got all the spare stuff that was at Ciba-Geigy. The buildings moved, and we're ready to rock and roll there. And also the Ciba-Geigy site is almost ready for Brian to bring all of his trailers down there for storage. That's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ron. Supervisor Sokol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance met on November 30th. Although there are numerous resolutions before you, they are mostly capital projects and year-end transfers. So I do not have much to report on, but in front of you are resolutions 468, 469, 512 through 528, 540, and 543. 543 came out of the December 12th joint personnel finance meeting, and this basically is just a grant of easement over Warren County property given to Niagara Mohawk for underground electricity that is going to be run to the newly constructed buildings from Rich Air. But at this point, I'd also like to thank Supervisors Gerard, Brock, Vanslo, Sieber, and Montesi. It has been a privilege working with all of you and getting to know you, and I wish you luck in your future endeavors, so good luck with everything. And at this point, could I have Mike Swan?
Absolutely, without objection. Of course, County Treasurer.
Good morning, everybody. Good news is sales tax is up 1.9%, so that's always nice. It looks like, barring any major problems, we should end up at about that level by the end of the year. On the downside, the railroad has underpaid us by about $143 for September, and we have not heard anything from them for October and November. Another problem that we're dealing with is the Champlain Lake George Regional Planning Board is delinquent on about $30,000 with payroll reimbursement. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but their payroll and everything runs through our payroll department, and we front the money, and then they reimburse us, and they're lagging behind on that. And lastly, Supervisor Gerard, Supervisor Brock, Supervisor Sieber, Supervisor Montesi, I want to personally thank you for your service to the county and its residents. This is more often than not a thankless job, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate your efforts. And I want to just say best of luck to all of you. It's been a pleasure working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
That's all I have. Thank you.
That's all. Supervisor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no report. However, Dan, Ron, Rachel, and Jim, it's been a pleasure and a privilege to get to know you, and I do wish you the best in whatever you decide to do going forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Supervisor Hyde?
Thank you, no report.
No report. Mr. Gerard?
Thank you. Facilities met in
475 to 482 are housekeeping resolutions that we do at the end of the year. They award contracts to septic, the electricians, the people to be on call up to a certain amount of money before we have to put out the bid. They have bid their rates so that we can call them in different situations. We have elevator, HVAC, and lawn maintenance fertilizer, herbicide pesticide. They're all in the package. And I'd like to thank all the department heads that I work with, especially Dr. Steele. There's numerous ones to mention: John Lemery, Ross Rivera, Jeff Tennyson, Frank Morehouse, Jason Caratone, Marcy Flores, Bob Reese, all extremely professional people. Mike Swan, Brian LaFleur, and Amy. Over the years, these are the people that make the engine run. I have so much respect for them, but the way they conduct themselves over the years. Also, the supervisors that were huge influences on me, and the first few years here, you're just a learning experience. Certainly, I had the privilege of sitting next to Fred Monroe. Ralph Bentley was wonderful. Bill Kenny, I have so much respect for what he did. And Bud Taylor, Fred Champagne, Michael Connors, great representative of the city of Columbus, Joey Gian, and very close with Evelyn Wood, who was close to the facility. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you, and it was a pleasure that I had the opportunity to work with them. It was a great 12 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Peter?
Thank you very much. Our last meeting of our local development corporation, I think, is just an excellent example of how LDCs ought to work. We heard a press presentation from Sheila Flanagan, one of the principals, as well as Lorraine Lambias, and we talked about Nettle Meadow Farm, which Cynthia, I'm sure, is very proud of, and I think I would be proud to have an organization like this in my community. They employ approximately 20 people. They are a goat and sheep dairy farm in New York's Adirondack foothills. They're home to over 300 goats, 100 sheep, and a variety of farm sanctuary animals. Nettle Meadow is committed to the principles of natural and organic products, happy and healthy animals, and carefully handcrafted artisan cheese. Nettle Meadows works hard. They create each batch of cheese by hand. They put their profits back into the care for old and infirm farm animals. Their sources are natural and organic feed for the animals. They pay a living wage and benefits to farm workers. They also invite the public to tour the farm and meet the animals behind Nettle Meadow cheese. But I think it's just an excellent example of how LDCs ought to work. A group of committed, hardworking, honest human beings that we ought to be proud that they're, in the North Country working hard and providing a quality product. I would like to wish Dan, Ron, Rachel, and Jim Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and the same to all board members. Thank you.
Thank you. Report of the county administrator.
Attended many committee meetings. One of the things we also were privy to when we went up November 29th to Chestertown for the biomass was the Cunningham Community Forest. The Cunningham family gave, I think, 105 acres out behind the town hall there to the west of the town hall as a community forest. And one of the things Jerry Delaney made note of is how community forests do work. And certainly this is a private town partnership that's going to be serve the people of Chestertown for a long time. So that was a nice addition. The other thing I went to was the AATV, which is the Association of Towns and Villages. Matt and I are on the board of AATV. It's important to all the communities in the Adirondacks. There's 114 towns and villages make up this association, and we talk mainly on Adirondack issues, but issues that challenge us all in the state. And one big thing, obviously, was the land bank that got passed. There was a lot of effort on that organization and a lot of organizations. Also of note was the walkthrough of the old correctional facility.
over here. We went on December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. We took a walk through that facility with some of the old OFS officials from the state. And last but not least, I attended the APA local government meeting the other day, the 13th, up in Coldbrook, and I can tell you it was cold. And it was 4 degrees up there in Coldbrook, and it's a little bit in Herkimer County, and it does snow up there quite a bit. But the roads were decent, but when I came back, it looked like I'd been through a mud bog with my car. So, but again, another organization that does a lot for the Adirondacks. So that's my report, and I'd like to make note that Damien Baker, DPW, has completed 20 years of service this month. So that's it.
Thank you, Kevin. Report of the county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing to report.
No report. Reading of communications.
Report of criminal and family workloads for October 2017 from the Warren County Probation Department. Warren County Department of Weights and Measures monthly report for November 2017. Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Corp. Financial reports dated August 31, 2017 and September 30, 2017. Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Corp. October 2017 surcharge check in the amount of $3,794. An email from Travis Whitehead, Town of Queensbury resident, clarifying remarks made at the November 17, 2017 board meeting.
Reading of resolutions.
Resolution numbers 468 through 541 were mailed. Proposed resolution numbers 468, 489, 503, 516, 517, 519, and 531 were amended after mailing. The revised resolutions were emailed to the board and posted to the county website. Copies of the revised resolutions are all in your folders. A motion is needed to approve the amendments to resolution numbers 468, 489, 503, 516, 517, 519, and 531.
Mr. Simpson on the motion. Is there a second? Ms. Bramer on the second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolutions as amended.
Proposed resolution numbers 542 and 543 were approved after the mailing. Copies were emailed to all members of the board and posted to the county website. Printed copies have been placed in your folders. A motion is needed to bring proposed resolution numbers 542 and 543 to the floor.
Motion, Mr. Merlino, second. Mr. Gerard, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. What's that? I'll now open the floor to anyone in the audience that has any remarks for the board regarding any resolutions. Mr. Whitehead.
Travis Whitehead, Queensbury. It's in regards to Resolution 509, the creation of a special counsel to the board, a new position. This is an employee, part-time employee position. I attended the November 27th Support Services Committee meeting and heard a bunch of things at that point when a different proposal was in effect where this person would be an independent contractor rather than an employee. And I believe that's probably more appropriate for several reasons, but we had the opinion of the county attorney at that time that it was also more appropriate, and she expressed some concerns that if it was part-time, that there would possibly still be a conflict with the opinion given by the Judicial Ethics Board some months ago. I think that argument is still valid and should be considered, at this time as well. On the other hand, I understand there was some pressure to push it towards an employee because the IRS prefers you to be an employee of somebody rather than an independent contractor. I know this firsthand because I'm an independent contractor, and they're particularly careful about when you leave the employ of a company and go in and then become an independent contractor for that company. They want to make sure that you're independent. What you really have to do is show you have other clients, that you are acting under your own direction, etc. If they have concerns, they may have the same concerns that I have, that this is not quite the independent position that it should be. So I have concerns about this. I don't have concerns particularly in the fact that, you know, you need some help there in that office. And but the other concern here is that this is all coming to light here on December 15th, and it's you know, for a position that's going to be, looks like, predated back to December 1st. It's also a concern when you do business in this manner that you approve things after the fact is never a good thing. And I just want to, you know, make that point as well. The other thing is, since it is an employee, it is falls under civil service. I did ask for a copy of the new position's duty statement. It doesn't say a whole lot. It says very little. But it does say that it's competitive, and I don't know whether or not there really has been any competition for that spot. So I express all these concerns to you. Do with them what you wish. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitehead. Anyone else wishing to address the board regarding resolutions? All righty. I'll ask the board members any items you wish a roll call vote on. There being no request for roll call, I will open the floor for discussion of resolutions. Ms. Bramer, I was waiting.
I'll start with the one that Mr. Whitehead just addressed, which was the spot for the part-time county attorney. I know that there was discussion, and maybe Mr. Whitehead wasn't at whatever meeting it was where we did discuss changing it from a consultant to a part-time employee. And a lot of my concerns have to do with that judicial decision, which says, you know, Brian shouldn't be an employee working in the county attorney's office, and our county attorney did express that concern as well. Although, on the other hand, we're paying a lot of money for him to be a consultant. One thing that I am struggling with, because I did vote in committee to go with the part-time employee avenue. You know, 498, which we withdrew, was only going to extend Mr. Reichenbach until the end of this year. And this one, 509, is sending him out for 3 more months.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thinking a lot about it. I just don't think I can support him being there for an entire 3 months, even though I know Mary is looking for the help, and I'm hopeful that she'll have her assistance soon. I just don't think we need Brian there for 3 months.
Thank you. Any further discussion regarding 509? There being none, I'll close discussion on 509. Any discussion on any other resolutions? Ms. Bramer.
Thank you. On 512, which is the van being transferred to Warren County SPCA, I did ask for the legal opinion about this, because this came up in the summer, and we had some questions about whether or not we could do that. I didn't ever get an actual analysis from Mr. Reichenbach, but he did send out an email this morning saying he had spoken to someone verbally at the comptroller's office. But I think that this resolution is a little bit misleading as to all of that. In the future, I'd like to know more about what is in the asset forfeiture program and why we aren't bidding out those excess items to the public so that anybody can go after them if they want to, and hopefully we would get the greatest amount of money we can for Warren County. I'm going to be voting no on both those. Thank you.
Okay. We can request the Sheriff Department to come and talk to the Appropriate Committee on asset forfeiture. We can set that up, of course. Anyone else wishing to discuss 512? There being no one, any discussion on any other resolutions? Then we shall vote on resolutions. I will do that. Without objection, when we get to a string of resolutions 515 through 527, I'd like to call for a roll call on those 3, 4, however many, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. They all deal with projects. Is there any objection to that? We'll deal with those all together. Thank you. All right. We shall vote on resolution.
Resolution 468, making supplemental appropriations. Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud? Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 469, amending Warren County budget for 2017. Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard? Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 509, amending table of organization and Warren County salary and compensation plan for 2017. Ms. Bramer?
No.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
No.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
No.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 512, authorizing transfer of Warren County Sheriff's Office surplus vehicle to Warren County SPCA. Ms. Bramer?
No.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
No.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 514, authorizing appropriation of funds from the Environmental Testing Reserve. Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolutions 515 through 527, all dealing with Public Works capital projects. Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 528, establishing capital project H379, airport security system. Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Abstain.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 529, enacting local law number 4 of 2017, providing for an exemption to Cold War veterans from real property taxation. Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 530, enacting local law number 1 of 2018, fixing salaries for certain county officers and employees. Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 542, amending table of organization in Warren County Salary and Compensation Plan for 2017. Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Montesi?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
No.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Gerard? Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes. Chair will entertain a motion, collective on the rest. Motion, Mr. Dickinson, second, Mr. Simpson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now open the privilege of the floor to anyone in the audience wishing to address the Board of Supervisors. There being no one, I will ask for announcements. Mr. Garrity?
Have two announcements. Remind the town supervisors to please pick up the tax rolls from the clerk's office before you leave today. Also go down to real property tax and pick up your tax bills for your town clerks or your tax assessors. Get the taxes done. So they're both ready. The warrant first, and go downstairs and pick up your books from the tax assessor.
All right.
If you don't do it, we'll come after you.
Any
They'll
other,
be after you. The clerks will.
any other announcements? Motion to adjourn? Mr. Sokol, Mr. Dickinson, thank you. Excuse me, Mr. McDonald, Mr. Dickinson. All in favor?
An honor.
Opposed? Carried. We are adjourned, everyone.